It's the elephant in the room, folks. People don't like it, but we've got to talk about it. We've got to talk about why certain people have so much success out on tour and others struggle. Why is it that EJ goes from winning the US Open to finishing dead last the week after? What is it about bowling on tour that makes it so difficult? This is such an important topic that I'm doing this while driving. And whatever, I just won't look at you much. I'm just going to focus on the road. But I'm going to talk as if I'm talking to a passenger about this subject, because this subject is very important. People just don't quite understand what it takes to be successful at the highest level. People just assume that these guys are really good. Yes, these guys are really good. We've established that. We know that. There's a difference, though, like between bowling league and bowling in the PBA. There's a huge difference on what it takes. Like in league, matching up in league is much easier than it is matching up in the PBA. And what I mean by matching up is creating the proper ball roll and having the proper ball in your hand. I don't care how good you are. The old saying is you cannot out-bowl bad ball reaction. You cannot. I don't care how accurate you are. I don't care if you're splitting boards. You're not going to beat guys who, especially out there, who are just simply matched up and have room for error because they have the right ball rotation with the right ball in their hand. That is the most important part of the game. Why do you think you see guys shoot 270 one game and then 140 the next game? Did they just forget how to bowl? No, it's because that ball in their rotation didn't match up with what they were doing before. It changed. And the change that they made was not the correct change. They didn't make the correct move. It happens all the time. It's going to continue to happen. This is why EJ won the US Open and then the very next week finished dead last in the field. Now, I mean, some of that you can blame on the high of winning the previous week and not being focused and whatnot, sure. But that focus meant that he didn't create the matchup that he needed to create for that week. So we had a problem. He just didn't strike as much as he needed to, or nearly as much as he needed to. It's that simple. Like, okay, I'll use Belmo this week. Belmo bowling at the TOC squeaked into the cut. He was in 50th place or worse. He was behind me after the first block. And then he was only like 30 over after the second block. He was 150 pins out of the cut going into that third block. And when the scores are pretty low and it's only going to take 2 teen a game to get there, it's hard to match up or to make a proper move to get your ball to strike enough to bowl 200 and something over. But Belmo did it. Belmo figured it out. He found a way to bowl 240 over to get to 290 over or 200, something along those lines, to get to 20th after being 50th the day before. Did he not know how to bowl the day before? No. He knew how to bowl. He's always known how to bowl. The problem is, or the solution was, he figured out a ball speed, rotation, and bowling ball that matched up properly on the condition that we were bowling on. That is what I failed to do. Don't get me wrong, I tried everything I could think of. I tried emulating him, but it was something about his ball speed and rev rate and bowling ball that he was using with the rotation that matched up so well. I obviously can't create his 500 RPMs. I could, but then I wouldn't know where the ball was going. I can get my rev rate up there, but then it's going to be slower, and who knows where it's going. That's not good. So I have to make my 450 work, and my rotation, which is going to be different than his, work in some way. So that's why it's so difficult. Like some of these guys, you'll see the whole point behind each week, these guys are trying to create basically the same motion through the pins every single week. Because they know if they can create the room for error and get their ball to go through the pins the same way they did before, they're going to have a chance to win every single week. It's why you're seeing guys like EJ have so much success right now. That's why it's always been that way. That's why you can see a guy win a couple of events and then all of a sudden go the second half of the tournaments and be nowhere to be found. Can't make a cut, everything else, like something changed. He's not matching up, not able to create those same shapes. Like that was what Pete Weber was so good at back in the day. He was so good at creating the same type of shape out of his bowling ball every single week. And that's why you've seen him on TV shows all the time. These guys that you see on TV shows are very good at creating the same type of shapes. Now, that doesn't mean that they're playing the same parts of the lane every single week. They may be playing different parts of the lane, but if you look at their ball motion is almost identical. It's almost the same every single time. Sure, one week they're going to be hooking it a little bit more. The next week they may be a little bit straighter, or they'll start straighter and then they're hooking it more. But the general idea every week is the same thing. You're going to start a little bit straighter, and then you're going to move left, and you're going to hook it a little bit more. But creating the shape to create room for error down lane and enough entry angle or proper entry angle to go through the pins to carry is the hard part. So don't get fooled by these guys when you see, somebody like EJ or Belmo have a good week and run the field over, and then the very next week, all of a sudden, it's almost as if they forgot how to bowl. No, it's about matching up. This is what we're talking about. However many shots you make really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many good shots you make necessarily if you don't have the right ball and rotation in your hand. So I just I want to clarify that, because there was somebody that came on my Facebook post and said, I don't like that term matching up. I think it must just mean that, EJ has just been incredibly lucky to just match up as often as he does. Well, you just proved my point by saying that, because he had weeks. He's literally went win, missed cut, win, missed cut, win, and he ended up bowling the regional or something. But this weekend he's actually bowling well. He's leading again. So it really just depends. Sometimes you match up, sometimes you don't. Some of those guys have gotten a lot better at matching up than everybody else, and it takes experience. It takes bowling every event. It takes being out there all the time to understand what you need to get your ball to do, because believe it or not, a lot of those patterns are shaped pretty much the same. A lot of those patterns are going to create the same types of shapes, and whatever issues you're having, you're going to have those issues again if you don't figure out how to change it. For me, it is going to have to be, which I'm not sure when I'm going to see these patterns again, because I've had some change in circumstances happen this year, to where I'm not sure I'm going to be able to bowl anything after the Masters. But for me, it would be, I need to drill some stronger layouts to make my bowling balls a little less responsive to the dry down lane, but more responsive in the middle of the lane. And that can make me to where I have the ball roll off of the dry nice and smooth, and then actually picks up in the middle of the lane when I get it into the oil. That's the whole idea. Everybody that bowls those events for the most part understand ball motion, and for the most part how to make it happen. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. Sometimes you just don't do the right thing at the right time, and that's the whole point. That's why having the right ball with the right rotation is more important than shot making. So keep that in mind. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you think these guys just get lucky and find ways to match up or grab the right ball, or what? A lot of the times in league, that's what happens. The guy just grabs the right ball, because most times there's not really a right ball. A lot of the times it's just creating the right rotation, and you can pretty much strike forever on a league pattern. So what you guys create on league patterns, these guys create on the tough patterns. A lot of the guys that are bowling in league and they're averaging 220 out there, they're going to average 160 out on these PBA Tour patterns, because they just don't understand the difference in the shapes and how much flatter they are. They give you no room for error. So just keep this in mind, folks. Let me know in the comments below. Is it just luck, or are these guys just that good?